Good evening, folks. My name is Brian P. Easton, and I am the author of a book series called Autobiography of a Werewolf Hunter. And this is the Werewolf Bar. Welcome back to Whiskey with a Werewolf Hunter for the March edition of our 7th season here on YouTube. Pull up a seat, pour yourself something bitter, and make yourself at home while I introduce you to what might be the most extraordinary creature of the night that we've featured on the show these last many years. So if you've watched the show, for the last 3 years at least, you've seen me present February's Creature of the Night as a gift from Dr. T. Broussard. It's become sort of a tradition here at the Werewolf Bar, but of course we don't expect that from him. So last month that didn't happen, but only because I recorded the show a day earlier than I usually do. The day after February's episode was ready to air, guess what arrived in the mail? That's right, a bottle of whiskey from the dock. And not just any bottle of whiskey, mind you. Let me show you what I mean. Meet the Devil's River Straight Bourbon Whiskey from San Antonio, Texas. Now you can buy Devil's River, the brand, in some of your classier liquor stores, some of your classier liquor aisles, but not like this one, not exactly. This one, I don't know if you can see there or not, but this was drawn straight from the cask, a single barrel cask, which means the spirit is uncut. See, what generally happens is when they bottle whiskey, they'll dilute it to bring it down to anywhere between, say, 75 and 100 proof. The uncut creature in its cask is much more potent. So if you could read what it says there. This is from whiskey barrel number 124, and the bottle is 146 out of 180 drawn off from that undiluted cask, making it, as it advertises here, 121 proof, or 16.5% alcohol. And if that wasn't enough for you, you can see here that the distiller has put my name there, as it specially was bottled for me from as a gift from Dr. T. You see, Doc didn't just buy me an epic bottle of whiskey. No, he called in a favor from the distiller himself, who drew off the bottle especially for me. I don't think I've ever had a more important bottle of whiskey at my bar, and I'm almost reluctant to open it because of that. But I'm not one to make a wallflower out of a full whiskey bottle. So as you can see, I'm going to take off the cellophane seal here for the first time opening this. And then I'm going to twist and break the little ribbon seal around the stopper. My. This is going to be something. And I can tell you right now that I know that this is going to be hot as hell, as is appropriate for a creature like this, especially one named Devil's River. So, to Dr. T, may you be in heaven, sir, a half an hour before the devil knows you're dead. Oh yeah, buddy. That'll put hair on your chest right there. I'm telling you what, yowza. That's the stuff legends are made of. Thank you so very much, Doc, for sending this to me. And I'm just wish I had waited a day longer to record last month, so we could have featured the bottle in February and kept the tradition. But I guess we have anyway. So speaking of last month, If you saw the episode, I gave my 2 cents worth on what I thought of the new Wolfman movie. And that's about what I thought it was worth. 2 cents. But before that, I showed you X and Z's horror movie reviews, a new YouTube channel from my partner in crime, Miles Booth and Son, who review their films from the perspectives of Gen X and Gen Z. And so I thought, to rinse the taste of yet another botched attempt to revise a franchise out of my mouth, I'd share with you a triple-aught buckshot review from X and Z of the most famous werewolf movies from 1981. Yeah, 1981. It was a pretty good year for werewolves. Have a watch.
This is the X and Z Werewolf Weekend Countdown, and we're doing our short reviews for our werewolf movies. We're going to start off with Wolfen, the least werewolfy of all the werewolves. This movie made me think of 3 things. Number 1, it needs a remake. Number 2, it didn't steal. Wolf Vision, amazing. Wolf Vision got stolen to make the movie Predator. Number 3, James Horner, who did the soundtrack for Wolfen, also used the same soundtrack for Aliens. Z, what you got?
Gen Z is not going to get anything from this film. It drags. The buildup is so much for so little. And the characters don't care about the movie so much.
There we have it. An American Werewolf in London. This is a classic movie. Maybe the most well-known werewolf movie. And it's for good reason. It's a great movie. Gen X loves it, remembers it well. And Gen Z, what did you think?
This movie is pure fun. Gen Z is going to get a lot out of this movie. It moves quickly, it's not boring, and it keeps it going. The characters are very fun. One thing I didn't like so much is that they don't cover the werewolf curse so much. He's cursed with being a werewolf, the main character, but we don't really get any more than that, other than the fact that he's a werewolf.
This one's for The Howling. This was our number 1 most werewolfy werewolf movie. These are bipedal, upright werewolves, the way you imagine a werewolf to be. It's my personal favorite of these werewolf movies, pretty much any werewolf movie except for maybe 1941. And it's amazing. It's dark, it's edgy, it holds up pretty well. It's got some plot holes, of course. It's 1981. It's overly weird in some places where it doesn't necessarily have to be, but the werewolves are awesome. Gen Z, what'd you think?
This movie is a bit of a mind bender. You wake up in the morning after watching and going, what did I watch? Other than that, it's a lot of fun. It's what I wish Friday the 13th was, a werewolf movie. And this is what it feels like. It's a for real werewolf. So I enjoy it thoroughly.
The Howling, Wolfen, and American Werewolf in London all debuted in that order from March to July of 1981. 2 of them are modern classics, benchmarks of the werewolf film. And Wolfen, well, I guess they can't all be winners. The Howling remains my favorite werewolf movie of all time, with apologies to Lawrence Talbot. Now, 2 of those 3 movies were based on books from 1977 and 1978. So I wondered about other books that might or have been inspired werewolf movies. So I did a quick rummage through my library of werewolf fiction and came back with a stack here beside me. Normally, when it comes to werewolves, I read nonfiction, be it historical, folklore, anthropological, but I've accumulated a fair amount, as you might imagine, of the fiction as well. So now, I won't present these in any order, but I want to go through the books with you and kind of note the ones which were in fact adapted to filmed, and which ones maybe followed a different route. Let's start with an obvious one. Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf, as illustrated by the legendary Bernie Wrightson. This 1983 novella was famously made into the film Silver Bullet just a couple of years later. Now, since it was adapted to the big screen by King himself, it should come as no surprise that the movie follows pretty closely with the Cycle of the Werewolf, which is an excellent story and it made an excellent werewolf movie. In fact, the only complaint you generally hear about Silver Bullet was the appearance of the creature itself, which seemed to be more bear-like than werewolf. Next, I have The Moon of the Wolf by Leslie H. Whitten. First published in 1967 and made into a TV movie of the week in 1972, starring David Jansen. Now, if you've never heard of it, it tells the story of a local sheriff on the trail of a werewolf in a small southern town. And back in '72, it was well received as a unique, a different, and a kind of a scary addition to the primetime lineup of ABC's Movie of the Week. And it's gone on to enjoy a certain amount of cult status since then. The novel itself is well written and pretty dated, though, but I have just always loved that cover art. Now, this one's a little different. Instead of a book that inspired a movie, this is the novelization of a movie, 2010's The Wolfman, which is claws and fangs better than its ill-contrived so-called successor a couple of months ago. Now, to me, novelizations, turning a movie into a novel, always seemed to kind of a backwards way to do things, and a little bit like a money grab, to be honest. And it seems like usually when this happens, instead of saying the book was better than the movie, you get the movie was better than the book. But this one is an exception. Now, I really like 2010's The Wolfman, and it was actually Tex Grebner of our Tools of the Trade segment, which, by the way, will return one of these days, who recommended this novelization. To say it is well written would be an understatement. It has a certain flow to it that even the movie didn't really have. And it covers some things omitted in the theatrical release, such as the origin of the wolf's head cane that Lawrence Talbot receives. Now, this one is called Return of the Wolfman by Jeff Rovin, which takes us in yet another direction, since it was written as a sequel to one of the last Universal monster films of the 30s and 40s. I'm talking about 1948's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, or Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters, which was the last big gig for Lugosi's Dracula. Frankenstein's monster, as played by Glenn Strange, and Lon Chaney Jr. As the Wolfman. Return of the Wolfman is a real gem, and it's because it's just expertly attuned to the genre of that bygone era. And it plays in your head like a movie as the pages go by. Lawrence Talbot specifically is written so perfectly you can almost hear Chaney reading the lines in your head. It also features several Easter eggs or homages to other Universal monster properties. And if there was one book that's in this stack with me tonight that I'd like to see on screen, it's this one. Published in 1998, it was followed by a couple of other Universal Studios themed novels, including Devil's Night and The Devil's Brood. Both good stories in their own right, but nowhere approaching the quality of this one. God bless you if you can find one that doesn't cost you your firstborn child an arm and a leg to boot. And I'm not selling mine. Now, on the other hand, for as low as $1.95, you can pick up S.P. Somtow's Moondance, which has one foot in the Wild West and another with a modern-day serial killer called the Laramie Ripper. One reviewer put it like this: a historical romance, a Dickensian chronicle of the American West, and a brutally violent werewolf epic. There's also native werewolfery afoot, as well as characters from European werewolf royalty. Now, I read this when it first came out in 1998, but as you can see by the bookmark there, I picked it up again. It would make a wonderfully fascinating movie if it were handled correctly. Then we have something called The Ultimate Werewolf, edited by Byron Price, which is an anthology of werewolf tales where, of course, your mileage may vary. But with authors included like Harlan Ellison and Philip Jose Farmer, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by more of them than not. It was first published in 1991 and was accompanied by anthologies called The Ultimate Frankenstein and The Ultimate Dracula, which also boasted some pretty big names like Kurt Vonnegut and Anne Rice. As for this one, though, it has several cinema-worthy stories, and the good news is it'll still be gotten on the cheap on Amazon, unlike the ridiculous $3,000 price tag some joker has on Return of the Wolfman. And that will bring us to The Last Werewolf by Glenn Duncan. Now, this one hit shelves back in 2011. And it showed up recommended for me on a few different places. But to tell you the truth, the online summary didn't really appeal to me at the time. And you have to remember, too, this was a time when Twilight was really big and all the rage. And I suppose I took this for the same kind of story as Twilight, and I just took a hard pass. But it kept showing up, and it kept showing up. And finally, almost after 15 years, I picked up a used copy for a few bucks, and I figured, I'd give it a try. So, just in a nutshell, this book is about a werewolf who has lost his will to live because he is the last of his kind, and he intends to let his hunters kill him on the next full moon. I don't want to say much more about it. I'm not even finished with it yet. Except to say that the story takes a new meaning about halfway through, which is, I'm a little over halfway through with this one now. So like I said, I haven't finished it yet, but I have to say it's done nothing but surprise me. It's not at all like the supernatural tween romance that I mistook it for. It's written in the first person, from the point of view of a werewolf, which, if you know my novels, they're also written first person, but by the werewolf hunter. So there's a kind of a juxtaposition there that I'm paying close attention to as I read. It's also written in what I'd consider a metropolitan English style. The author is from London, I believe. And it kind of borders between sophisticated and pretentious at times. But just about when I think the writing is just a little too high-minded, the narration just brings me back in as it's presented from the point of view of a 200-year-old werewolf. Beneath the scenes of brutal violence and breathless sex, it's mostly a thinking werewolf's book, which is nice, since that sort of perspective traditionally belongs to vampire characters. It's better than I wanted it to be quite frank, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. It's the first book in a long time that I really want to know how it ends. Got some favorite werewolf books of your own? Send me their titles in the comments below. I'm always looking for suggestions. Well, it's last call for alcohol, the Werewolf Bar. Another taste of Doc's Devil's River. Lord Almighty. And we want to thank you for joining us tonight. You'll find all the links associated with my books and X and Z's horror movie reviews down in the description below. And as you leave the Werewolf Bar tonight, don't forget to like and subscribe. We hope to see you back here next month. But until then, happy hunting and mind the moon, especially on this third night of Wolventide. We'll see you next time.
In a smoky dive on a Saturday night, where the jukebox spins a tune just right, sat a young hunter back from Vietnam, a new horseman's duster and an amorous plan. She walked in like a whisper with a tiger's grace, with a flick of her hair and a beautiful face. He asked her name and took a chance on the face, just two souls a-dancing on the edge of mistakes. Under the neon glow they twirled, a waltz of danger in a painted world. promise of thrill. He led her away with an urge to fulfill. In a motel room where shadows play, where they fell to embrace and the urge held sway. Just when he reached for paradise, the storm cut the moment, cold as ice. There in the moonlight, her features fade as the beast deep inside her began to invade. By the light of a bedroom lamp, they whirl a waltz of danger in a painted world. With a demon closing in, he spun and he died from the arms of a she-wolf when Mimic died. He lunged for his coat, silver bullets in the clip, with a curse on his lips as his blood slowly dripped. With a shot ringing out like a thunderclap, he blew through her heart and her deadly trap. Now he hates to remember those memories dire, a hard lesson learned in a trial by fire. But sometimes the full moon still whispers her name, a lover turned nightmare in his perilous game. Under the neon glow they twirl, a waltz of danger in a painted world. The shadows closing in, they spun and they sighed